We are often asked about adding borders to different cards. There are different types of borders that can be added, and based upon what it is you want to put a border on, you can use any of the different methods. To start with, let's take one in which we simply put a border around a text box. So I'm going to open up a text box. I'm going to expand all attributes and add the border feature. I'm going to click on the solid choice. You could also do, of course, rounded corners. You could do dashed, but we'll stay with a normal square for the moment. And you can increase the size and thickness. Let's say you're going to put this one all the way to the edge of the card. So let's go fairly thick. Click OK. We could also have given it a color, but for now I'll stay with black and make this the full size of the card. And this way you get a border all the way to the edge of the card. One of the other things you can do, if I shrink this down a little bit, make it less than the full size of the card, I could use the centering tool and it will center it to the full size of the card. I can also go back in, right click, choose text box layout, go to my border again and make that border less thick. Let's maybe make it just a 6-point size. And we could also make a double border very easily if I click on this border pattern on the outside, so it's got a blue border around it. You can go up to Edit, Duplicate, made a copy of that border. If I click on my shrink icon, I could click it down a couple of clicks. And if I again choose the center pattern, there you go, there's a double border. Another method we could use to make borders is to use our fixed shape tools and layering various fixed shapes on top of each other in smaller sizes so that there are borders around the outside edges. We're going to start with a square. You'll notice that as the square gets inserted in the upper left-hand corner, that if I want to expand it, I can simply grab the right-hand anchor and enlarge it. But that makes it a square. So to override the aspect ratio, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, which you can't see me do. I can make it the full size of the card that way. That's for those that like to work visually. I'm going to delete this and show you that for those that like to work mathematically, you could insert that. You could right-click on the fixed shape, choose your layout, and simply dial in the size of the fixed shape to be the 5x7 that is the size of the card. The next step to do is to convert it to a color that we want it to be, which of course is white. But we're going to put a border on the outside edge of this. So we're going to select white card itself and activate our color and choose the color that we want the border to be and give it the size that we want it to be. And there it is. Now we can repeat that by simply inserting another fixed shape on top of it. I'm going to take this fixed shape, choose layout, give the border the color that I want, give the border the size that I want, which is 1/10 of an inch on all sides, and make this a white card. And I could either use math again by dialing the size that I want, or as a visual person, I could simply move this into the position that I want it to be visually. And then just to make certain that it's properly centered, I could use the center tool, and there it is. One of the advantages of using the fixed shape tools is I could change this color between the two borders by simply selecting a different background color in that white space. So if I were to select the outer fixed shape and choose layout, go to my color, we could choose one of the other colors that would work as a contrast to that color. So let's just choose one that's in this family here. And there you have it. In using the text box method of making borders, here's an interesting tip as to how you can get a colorful filler in between the two layers of the borders. Starting with the two borders that we had in the first example, I'm going to select the inner text box 2, and I'm going to shrink it down a couple of clicks so I can increase the amount of white area between the two borders and recenter it using the centering tool. I'm now going to add a fixed shape, and I'm going to use the rectangle, and I'm going to make it the full size of the card because I want to put this in the background. So this will make it a 5x7. And down in this section here, we have an option for filling that background of that fixed shape with a gradient pattern, which allows us to change colors over the course of the full size of the card. So if I start with one of my colors to begin with, and let's say we pick in the red spectrum, I'll start with a yellow in the center. And I want it to grade out to one of the red colors, a little pattern. I'm going to want to make it rectangular. I want the colors to come from the center. If I click OK, makes it the full size of the card. Of course, it's sitting on top of everything, so I want to move my layer to the very back. But now you can see this area is solid. So if I'm going to increase the width of this background pattern off the side of the card, you'll see I now get some of the effect of that background pattern changing colors. Other ways to make border patterns could be as simple as taking a text box. In this case, I'm going to start with a font set called the CBD Animal Dings. I'm going to resize it to the top, and I'm going to click inside the text box and make it active. I'm going to come along and choose my character map and choose one of the characters in the animal set. Let's go with a dinosaur. And I'm going to take that dinosaur font. I'm going to enlarge it a couple of clicks. And I'm also going to give it a color. Let's say this is for a boy, so we'll choose something in one of the blue families. And then I'm going to take that and I want to come up here to edit, copy, click after it, put a blank space, and I'm going to come up here to edit, paste. And as you can see, I could also use Control V, a keyboard shortcut, to do the same. Now I've got a dinosaur border at the top, which I of course can click on the border, make it active, come over here to edit, duplicate, and it makes a second copy of that, which I will drag down to the bottom. We could stop there, but of course we could also go further and add something as simple as a line, such as if I take my text box here and resize it, and maybe I'll move it underneath, it'd be easier to see. Click, and I'm just going to use the keyboard underscore and make a solid line. And I can take this and move it up into position, say right under it. I could of course change its color, and I could of course duplicate it as well. And put one down there at the bottom. You could stop there. If you want to keep going, we could take our text box. We can make another copy of it. Take this one, and now we can make it a horizontal pattern, but you see the lines run together, the characters run together. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in the text box. I'm going to uncheck my evenly spaced paragraphs so that it all collapses to the top. And I'm just going to simply add a return mark between each one. And if I need to do the same here at the end to make it a little bit more complete, I could take this character, highlight it, edit, copy, move down to this position, and edit, paste. I can now take that and duplicate it and position this over on this side. In addition to creating borders using our text box and fixed shapes, Personalized Expressions has provided you with some free imagery that includes some border designs. To access them, simply go up to the new card icon in which you could choose the CS Library collection. Click on the icon. You will get a search box that indicates that you could search for something in particular, but in this case I'm just going to leave it blank. It's going to go to my CS Library folder. I'm going to click on the preview so you can see what they are. As I click on each of these, you'll be able to see that there are some border designs that are in there. And if I were to pick one at random, it's got some colored dots. I'm going to change the colors of the dot pattern a little bit by changing the hue value of them. We can enhance this border pattern using some of the tools that we used before, such as adding a thin line. Of course, I could change the color of that so it's not so strong, or even using the method that we used before where we duplicate the pattern. Another methodology for making borders is something involving stripes. I'm going to start, for example, with a solid color background. Make this the full size of the card. Right-click and choose a color. Then I'm going to insert on top of this another fixed shape, which starts out as a square, but I'm going to convert it to a very long rectangle, almost like a bar. And I'm going to give this bar a color, and we'll give this something somewhat contrasting in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle this, say 45 degrees. Maybe I want that, and then we're going to start to duplicate this. So I'm going to go Edit, Duplicate, and I'm going to repeat this all the way across the page to make a complete set of stripes. The next step is to add a white space, which will be my printable area. I'm going to right click on my square. I'm going to go ahead and choose my color to be white. And then I'm going to resize it. And again, I like to work visually. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and I'm going to make a box and then position the box where I want it to go. Call it quits right there and leave that as our invitation. Or to add something new, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one top shape for now. I'm going to select one of my stripes and I'm going to duplicate it and bring it up here, and I'm going to reverse its angle and I'm going to make it a different color just for a little bit of contrast. And then I'm going to repeat the pattern over again and duplicate this and drag it out this way. So you can see there's lots of things that you could do with various shapes and make background patterns. Fixed shapes and text box borders are an often overlooked part of personalized expressions, and as you can see, they're very powerful tools to accomplish whatever kind of border design you want to make.